Today, we're going to be doing an exercise to try and really hone in on what the true median home price is of a single family home inside the city of Redmond, as well as inside the city of Bend. Because after all, we have Deschutes County as a whole, and we've got 215,000 people roughly living in Deschutes County. Four total incorporated towns inside Deschutes County, with the vast majority of the population living in either Bend or Redmond. But we have all these other unincorporated communities in Deschutes County, and their data every month gets tossed into the mix with Redmond or with Bend, and it kind of skews the overall data. We want to know today what the true median home price is of a single family home inside the city limits of Bend or inside the city limits of Redmond. We're going to leave Eagle aside. We'll leave Plainview aside, Tumalo, Sun River, Three Rivers South, Alfalfa. All those are fantastic unincorporated communities in Deschutes County. However, we're not going to use their data to apply to what the median home price is of homes inside the city limits of Redmond and Bend is today. So if a video like this sounds like it could be of service to you, stick around. We're jumping into it right now. Hey, if this is your first time to the channel, or it's your 50th, that doesn't matter to me. And you want to know everything there is to know about living, eating, sleeping, working, playing, the true median home price in Bend and Redmond right now, then subscribe to the channel, tap that notification bell below so you can be the first to know about the current market happenings here in Bend and Redmond and the rest of Central Oregon. My name's Ryan. I've lived in Bend for over 30 years. Zach and I, we get calls and texts every day from people just like you, looking for help with their next transaction as it relates to real estate here in Bend and Central Oregon. So whether you're looking to make that transaction a possibility in the next 9 days or 90 days or even beyond that, that also doesn't matter to us. Give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, set up a Zoom call even. Or if you're local, let's go get coffee somewhere and we can discuss your situation at hand so we can figure out what the best course of action should be next. Now, Deschutes County, 3,000 or just a smidge over 3,000 square miles. Decent sized county, not the biggest, not the smallest in the state, but it is pretty interesting. It's bigger than Delaware and it's 2.5 times bigger than Rhode Island. Both those little states have over 1 million people living in them. So could you imagine Deschutes County with 1 million people right now? Maybe someday, hopefully not for a while. But today, what we really want to do is just kind of really discover the median home price inside the city limits of Redmond and inside the city limits of Bend. In Deschutes County, there's over 100,000 housing units. Now, there's 4 incorporated cities in Deschutes County as well: Bend, Redmond, Sisters, and Lapine. Now, 62,000 or maybe 63,000 of those housing units fall within one of those 4 jurisdictions inside the city limits. Sisters and Lapine, of course, are very small pieces of the pie as it relates to the housing units inside city limits in Bend. So the majority of them are going to be in either Redmond or Bend, and that's what we want to focus on today. That leaves 40,000 plus housing units that are in Deschutes County, but not affiliated with any particular city. However, when we get our monthly data every single month, a lot of these unincorporated areas of Deschutes County, like Eaglecrest, like Plainview, like Tumalo, like Alfalfa, like Sun River, like Three Rivers South, they all get tossed into either the data mix with Redmond or the data mix with Bend. And it kind of skews the city limit data, the median home price of Bend's city limits or Redmond's city limits. So we're going to leave those unincorporated areas out of this exercise today and just really explore what the median home value is right now in Redmond and Bend. And we'll start with Redmond. As I share my screen, we'll just jump right into it right now. So what we're looking at here is a map of Deschutes County in the last 180 days. So 6 months of transactional activity. These are all single family residences. And what you see here on the map is a total of 2,609 single family residences that have closed in the last 6 months. Now, if we uncover a little bit more of this data, as this video is titled, we're going to be focused in on Redmond and Bend. But what we really want to decipher is the fact that the city of Redmond and the city of Bend only make up a small percentage of these transactions. As we go to the next slide, we see the city of Redmond, and that's what we want to focus in on now. We're going to zoom in and get a feel for this. You see the majority of housing units that are actually on the left side of 97. We've talked about that before, but you've got the city limits. It's shaded here, and that's going to be kind of the focal point here in just a moment. But we want to give you this understanding of like what actually gets counted as Redmond. We go all the way out as far as Eagle Crest. We're coming in between Bend and Redmond here. This is kind of like a Tumalo area here, little Tumalo area over here. This is all rural property, and it's much different than from what a lot of people are really looking to acquire when it comes to living in Redmond or living in Bend. So if we go to the next slide, what we're really going to see here is just an outline of total sales. But if we go back 180 days, what we're going to be looking at with this particular slide, technically Redmond, Oregon, and the surrounding area, we're looking at a total of 350 closed transactions on single family residences. And just keep in mind, we just looked at the Deschutes County map version of this exact format, and we had over 2,600 of these single family closings. So it's going to be curious to see what Bend really uncovers and what it represents when we finally get to that. But keep in mind, okay, the general area of Redmond, not just the city limits of Redmond right now, are representative of 350 total closings in the last 180 days. What we have for statistics with Redmond is a median home price of $525,000. The median size home is 1,787 square feet on a 0.17 acre lot. Now, this includes all of the surrounding area. So what we're going to do right now is take away the surrounding area and just focus in on the shaded area that we see that is where the majority of these sales are inside the Redmond city limits. So we pull up the next version of the map, and this is what we're going to see. What we have here is the outline of the city limits of Redmond, not just the surrounding area. And so what we're going to look at now is 169 total sales in the last 180 days. A stark difference from where we just were, the surrounding area, including the city limits of 350 sales. Now, this is where the data gets interesting. Inside the city limits, 169 total sales in the last 6 months. The median home price drops from 525 all the way down to $495,000. Average home size remains about 1,743 square feet with a median size lot of 0.16 acres. Very interesting difference in the data, correct? Albeit most of the statistics are the same outside of the median home price. Days on market's about 48 to 50 days, just like it is with the surrounding Redmond area. And this is what we really want to drive home. Right now, we've had this whole narrative where the median home price of Redmond homes has been 500 to 560, up to $560,000 for the last 12 months. When in reality, inside the city limits, it still remains under $500,000 at 495 over the last 6 months. So hopefully this kind of gives you that little perspective that you would require. You can see some of these homes here that have sold within the city limits as we show you some of the recent closings. But this is what we want to show you today. And we're going to do this with Bend here in just a second as we transition from Redmond to Bend to give you that understanding. Because again, all these unincorporated areas outside of Bend are much different than, say, what's in the city limits. And that's where a majority of our clients are really looking, inside the city limits. So let's move over to Bend and take a look and do the exact same exercise. Now we've got Bend pulled up here, and this is what's very interesting. You can see the blue dots. That represents basically everything that is associated with Bend, Oregon. And the city limits are like in this little outline right here. We're going to go into that here in just a second, but you can see it's just littered and flooded with blue dots closings. In the last 6 months, we're looking at 844 total sales with the Bend general metropolitan area. It goes all the way down to just to the north of Lapine. We're out here in Alfalfa. I mean, look how big of a radius slash circumference that this entire region and this circle covers as far as Bend associated closings, when in reality, the city limits are much smaller in terms of their volume. You can see now the outline as we zoom in just a little bit. And this is where we really want to make our point. If we're to look at the data mix of this exact set of closings over the last 6 months, this is what we're going to be looking at. 844 total sales. Median home price in this entire region of the Bend area, 775,000. Sales over $1 million in the last 6 months. We have a total of 116 closings. Over $2 million closings. We've got 53 and over $3 million. How many homes in the last 6 months in this little area where those blue dots are had a closing of over a $3 million home? 15. That's the general area that we're discussing right now. So you can imagine how that would skew the data inside the Bend city limits. And so that's the slide that we're going to look at next to really gain a understanding of the Bend median home price inside the city limits versus the general area. Because all these little dots out here, you got Sun River, fantastic area. You've got Plainview. You've got the 𝐁𝐞𝐧𝐝 area. You look at some of these closings, they're halfway to Redmond, halfway to Sisters, or 3/4 of the way to Sisters. That is not necessarily the city limits of Bend. And those sales will certainly skew the overall median home price of the city limits of Bend. So next slide is going to be just the city of Bend so we can really break it down and figure out the difference and what the true median home price is in Bend. So here we have the map up here. This is Bend city limits and the outline of the Bend city proper. And we've got 450 total sales inside the last 6 months inside this outline. This should give us some understanding of what the true median home price is in the city limits of Bend as we go through some of this data here. Now, keep in mind what we just did with the Bend general area, including Sun River, including Plainview, including large portions of Alfalfa and 𝐁𝐞𝐧𝐝. We had 840 plus sales over the last 6 months, and now that has shrunk to 450 inside the city limits. $1 million or more closings. What we were looking at with the general area of Bend a second ago was 116, and now inside the city limits over the last 6 months, it's just 89. 89 of 450, over 1 million. Yes, Bend is getting expensive. Same data point with $2 million homes. Over the last 6 months, we've had 11 inside the city limits, whereas the Bend general area was 53. And then $3 million homes. We've had just 2 inside that little boundary where those blue dots are right now, what you're looking at, as opposed to, say, 15 of them in the Bend general area over the last 6 months. So this should help you kind of infer maybe what the Bend city limit median home price is for a single family home. Right now, it's under 700,000. It's actually $695,000, as opposed to, say, the general area of Bend, which makes it 775. So a large difference, $80,000 discrepancy. Could there be value for you? Could you see yourself now being able to afford living in Bend or Redmond, as opposed to what you thought before, where the median home price of both these towns was too high as a result of looking at the outer scope of the data all around some of these unincorporated areas that kind of propel the value of Bend or Redmond up? Well, if we look at the Bend city limits and the Redmond city limits, now we realize that the actual median home price inside the city limits is lower than what we originally thought. So maybe this could give you the confidence that you could purchase in Bend or purchase in Redmond if you didn't think otherwise before. Hopefully this was a fun little exercise. Hopefully it gave you some perspective and provided some education as to what's going on in and around Bend, Central Oregon, and Deschutes County. My name's Ryan. I'm a licensed broker with eXp Realty. I'm so glad that you're still watching this if you are. And it's your time to reach out. Please do so, but it starts with you. You got to call, text, email, set up a Zoom call. And if you're local, we'll go get that cup of coffee. We'd love to discuss your situation to figure out what the next course of action should be. Again, my name's Ryan. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next video.